Hi, my name is Salome Nyambura. I'm born again. One area where I realized I was struggling with was fear of people and having anxieties around people in general. And this is something that I learned or realized that I was struggling with most during the unmasking class. Because as you're dealing with unmasking, as you're dealing with ungodly beliefs and everything that you're being taught, my mind was flowing back towards what I was struggling with most, which was fear. So my life generally before the class was, whenever there is a gathering of people, I did not want to be around that. And I didn't understand why I was afraid. Even during that moment where I'm around people and I'm struggling with fear, I would ask myself, what are you afraid of, Salome? And I would not be able to answer that question. So I would struggle with fear, asking myself questions, not having answers, meaning I would continue struggling with it. And the more you're struggling with something like that, was that it was discouraging also. It was affecting my self-esteem. It was affecting my faith. It was affecting, because I'm also praying about it. Like, I don't want to be afraid, but still continuing to be afraid. So it was affecting my faith and my walk with God. So that was generally the life behind or before the class. So during the class, as we are dealing with different issues, different areas, we are being taught how to unmask our souls and how to go about it, how to pray, because it's also how we were praying before, and this is how we are praying now through the leadership of those who are teaching us, Mkolwes. So now during the class, as you're being taught how to pray about this, I changed the way I am praying about fear. I'm praying for the Lord to show me the ungodly belief that is leading me to be afraid around people. You see, that's a different prayer from praying, Lord, take away the fear. So now I am praying, because of what we've been taught, how to pray about the ungodly beliefs behind the fear. What is it that is leading me to fear? And as I'm praying this way, the Lord showed me the reasons why I was actually afraid. And it is something that is so unexpected. I did not know that that was the reason behind it. The Lord showed me that I was afraid of being mocked. And the Lord would show me where, like the origin of that fear. It is because something happened a long time ago where people mocked me while sitting in a certain setting of an office or an office meeting. Something happened and there was mockery, there was laughter. So without realizing that was a seed that was planted and it grew roots without me realizing that. So whenever there is a meeting or a group of people, this thing would happen without really my knowing or my thinking. I would just be afraid. So the Lord showed me the origin of where the mockery was. He showed me that I was afraid of being ashamed, of being ridiculed, of being accused. And He would show me what happened originally, which was really not a big deal at that moment. But it was a seed. It was a small seed that I allowed myself, or allowed it to grow and germinate to a point where it affected my relationships with people. So by praying this way, you see already there is progress, where you know the origin of the problem. Why are you afraid? You know this is the reason. And you know the ungodly beliefs that are tied to these things that happened at that time. So the belief that I am not good enough, the belief that I am a failure, it originates from these seeds that were planted at that time. So the belief that whatever it is that I'm saying is worth mocking, like it's not worth listening to. These lies that the enemy would just attach to whatever trauma or wound or whatever situation that would happen that would be negative, he would plant these lies. And we would believe because we didn't know any other way. At that time, I had not grown in my walk with God to a level where I could be able to identify an ungodly belief. So whatever it is that came to mind, I would believe it, not knowing that it's not from the Lord. So through the class, we're able to be taught the godly beliefs, how to come up with affirmations, not just general affirmations, but affirmations that come from the Word of God. Those ones cannot change, will not change at all. Unlike just coming up with an affirmation like, I am beautiful. Somebody can say you're ugly and you'll have no basis to saying why you are saying you're beautiful. But basing your affirmations on the Word of God, saying, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, means whatever way that one is challenged, the Word of God remains true and it does not change, and you know that. So these are things that I learned through the unmasking class. And I don't think I would have reached a place where I can even sit right now and record a testimony unless I went through this class, actually. Like, it would not have been possible. So I can already see the progress of how I am now relating with people, of how I am now approaching life. Basically, so many things have changed, and I realize they are changing as we go. Being able, and not just being able, there is an ease to it. You may struggle a little bit, but there is an ease to how you are doing things. Unlike before, where if you are bound, you will not be able to do anything that you need to do. If I am truly afraid and anxious during those days before, it meant that I would be unable, completely paralyzed, not able to do what I needed to do if I felt afraid. So it was this hold of anxiety that would make my mind blank, would make my body shake, I would be sweating. There would be a lot going on to a point where I am not completely able to function. So now I may struggle a little bit, but the fact that I am able, and sometimes there is ease to it, that is how you know you've actually been delivered from something that had like a legal ground, that had bound you to a point where you are not able to do the things that you need to do. So that is what I am still learning. Like, the affirmations is something that I will still have to go and do again and again. Even the ones that I have done, I will still have to process it, because again, we said these are seeds that were planted a long time ago. They grew roots. So it will take time before these things are completely uprooted. And the Word of God, which is the truth, which is now the seeds that we are planting now, are now rooted to a point where it easily flows through our souls. It will take time. And I acknowledge that, I know that. So I am ready to work through my affirmations. I am going through a book of Ephesians and drawing the affirmations, because I realize that's one book where it says a lot about a believer. So I am taking literally one verse at a time, and drawing an affirmation about myself from the book of Ephesians, and of course any other that the Lord would bring to mind. So anyone who would like, or who would feel like they need help, actually I would say every believer needs an Unmasking the Soul class. Why? Because you don't realize what it is that is going on in your soul unless you get help, unless you know how to go about it. If you think you just by prayer, I can tell you for a fact, I am a believer. I've been born again since 2006. I've gone through these things this long without realizing that I am bound, that I needed help, until we went through this healing process and realized there's so much that can affect a believer without knowing. The enemy is cunning, and he can be able to manipulate a believer and live their lives bound, believing that they are still going to heaven and life is normal. Poverty, things like failures, things like just those things that just don't make sense for a believer. You are born again Christian. Why are you struggling with certain sins? You are born again Christian. Why are you struggling in poverty? There are things I'm sure every believer asks themselves about themselves that is not really adding up or do not match up to the Word of God. So every believer who is asking themselves questions that they cannot answer, because again I say these questions that we have or I had have been answered through the Spirit of God. You see, I was bound by fear and I did not know why until I went through this process and until the Lord revealed the story behind it all. And that is how I'm able to be free from it. So I would recommend any believer, every believer, this is the first step. Whether you're a new believer or you've been a believer for a long time, come and figure out if your soul needs any kind of help, if it needs unmasking, if you are bound by something, if you are wounded by something, if you are traumatized by someone even. Because people, you cannot control people. So somebody could have laughed at you at some point somewhere and you did not realize what it did to you until you go through this process and realize actually it wounded you in one way or another and it's affecting how you are going on with your life. So yes, that is my recommendation. Basically, the unmasking class is for every believer.